Thanks, Fred. And the follow-up to this, Fred, is this study was done out of Europe, and there was another study done out of Korea that they basically said the more blood sugar within your bloodstream, there's more of a cancer risk. But, why don't we address a little bit, simple sugars, every cell needs glucose. And when you put glucose into your system, normal physiology, insulin will be activated. Insulin does rev up cell growth for healthy cells as well as cancer cells. And, they may be healthy people because they haven't been diagnosed with anything, but maybe they're feeding this entity because of their general lifestyle. And could you comment on another piece of the article I put in there about insulin and exercise too, please?
Well, I think what happens with a lot of people that abuse any form of sugar, and that includes fruit, there's no two ways about it. Hyperinsulinism, and a lot of people, don't seem to get the significance of that on a scientific basis. I mean, I had somebody that was kind of ridiculing that, and it just shows me how basically ignorant some people could really be. And hyperinsulinism is something that a healthy person that is, their beta cells in the pancreas, they're working okay. When they eat something that requires the secretion of insulin, in other words, they're getting too much sugar in there, the body will secrete the insulin. If you're overdoing it, no matter where it's coming from, of course, fruit is different than processed sugar. You can eat a lot more of it because of the companion nutrients. Plus, you can also, exercise actually acts as insulin. So if you're exercising a lot, and, you can certainly eat more fruit if you're on a raw food or a vegan or a type of a diet where you're eating plenty of fresh food. But anything can be overdone, just like you can overdo protein. We have an obsession in this country with protein. Some people are just overdoing it. But there are people that are obsessed with fruit. And because they're exercising all day, they think they can eat all the fruit they want. And because they measure their blood sugar's in the normal range, they don't think it's a problem. Well, that's one of the biggest mistakes I ever heard of. Because if your pancreas is working okay, and you eat, I don't care how much fruit you eat 25 pounds of fruit, your blood sugar, it'll probably be in the normal range because you'll be secreting enough insulin. But your insulin secretion will be in a frenzy. And when your insulin secretion is in a frenzy like that, you have a lot of insulin and sugar in your blood at the same time, you make yourself at risk over a period of years where your body will just break down from the stress that you're actually creating from it. Hyperinsulinism causes inflammation of the arterial lining. It's a factor in coronary artery disease. It's a factor in any inflammatory disease. And my personal belief is that all disease begins with inflammation. So the key is to recognize the fact that, if you're feeding yourself and eating to satisfy emotional, psychological reasons, which a lot of people do that, overeat on certain foods because they're medicating themselves emotionally, psychologically with the food. A lot of people are doing that, and that's very commonly done with fruit. I know I overate on fruit. I ran marathons. I ate tremendous amounts of fruit, and I knew what I was doing. It gave me great energy. I was able to run very well, but I suffered the consequences later on. I had to pay the tab, and luckily it was the tab wasn't expensive as it could have been. But people have to be aware that you just can't, your body has to react to what you do. Everything is chemical and everything is action and reaction. If you overdo something, your body has to create that equilibrium or that balance to stabilize what you did to excess. So if you're eating a ton of something that's not necessary, your body has to go into an alter response to compensate. Just like when you take stimulants, people eat a lot of stimulating foods, and what happens? They get all jacked up, they feel superb, they go out, they go in for a run, they go flying along the street, then the next 2 days, they're laying in bed exhausted because of the stimulation. Same thing happens when you overdo, same thing can happen when you overdo fruit. And you just have to keep doing it. It's not necessary. If you want to exercise all day, to eat a lot of fruit, by all means, that's your prerogative, but I don't encourage people to do that. Now, I'm not against eating fruit. I love fruit. I eat plenty of fruit in my diet. But I know what the repercussions could be, because I've seen them personally, and I've also seen them in my experience with probably seeing 25 to 35,000 people. I see this. I've been seeing this day in and day out. I look at some of the big names that were in the raw food community years ago. They had a disaster because they were divided into two camps, the fruitarian camp and the camp that wanted to eat a lot of starches. They never wanted to strike a happy medium and create the balance that you need in food. The purpose of the fruit, if you're doing more exercise, of course, and you need to increase the calories in relation to the amount of exercise you're doing, then if you're a raw foodie, you can eat the fruit. If you're not a raw foodie and you're vegan vegetarian, you could go to starches. Now, potatoes and sweet potatoes and things like that. Of course, there's people out there going to make you think the starches are poison. They're not poison in moderation along with a salad. And if you're eating some cooked foods and steamed vegetables, the whole key is to create the correct and a happy medium based on your lifestyle, based on the intelligence that's backed up by credible science.